Hello there, people of the internet. I am moving up in the world because now I got shade cover and I don't have to hide in the trees. I've also got this chair that I can sit in. Carrying all of this out with all of my other equipment is definitely a lot though, because I have to walk through Florida swamp to get to this range. So we're out here at the old this is an old landfill that's been turned into a shooting range because a new landfill opened up down the road. A lot of people yell at me for all the garbage and whatnot out here. Guys, it's a landfill. Don't know what you want from me. Alright, so out here I have my 50 caliber Hawkins rifle. This right here is just a Hawkins style rifle. This particular one is made by Connecticut Valley Arms, Spain. It says Frontier on it, so I think that this right here is probably one of the muzzleloaders that I shoot most often, so I'm pretty gosh darn used to this particular one. I prefer this one because I can take the barrel wedge out, barrel comes right off. It makes it real easy to clean versus some of my other ones, which like have pins and whatnot that you got to tap out to properly clean the barrel without getting the wood wet and whatnot. Anyway, the reason why I'm out here is because I'm just shooting and having fun. But I brought my camera today because I have these right here. There's some bugs in the background, I'm sorry for that. I got these homemade percussion caps that I've been making from beer cans, and I wanted to come out and like actually run them, test them out, try them out, see how they go, see how well they work. From what I've seen with other people who've done exactly what I'm doing, it works just fine. So it's been a minute since I've shot this muzzleloader. It has been in storage, and whenever I put it in storage, I stuck some oil and whatnot on it. So we might have some issues getting it going, because normally you don't want to oil a black powder gun just because the black powder mixed with oil doesn't really set off all that reliably. But I have a couple of ways that we can try and change that. So how I change that, actually, first things first, let me go ahead and load this thing up. This is a 50 caliber muzzleloader. I got me a little flask right here. We are running homemade black powder. This stuff is corned black powder, so it's not quite as powerful as some of the stuff that you would get from like an actual store, but it should still be good enough for plinking at the range. Corned black powder is something that was used all the way up until like the mid 1800s, so it's definitely got its fair share of time on a two-way range. Now, since it is corned black powder and not quite as powerful as regular black powder, we would bump up the charge a little bit, but I only have so much of this stuff here. So we are going to be using kind of like low power charges. It's not like I'm going after game or anything, but it should be, like I said, good enough for plinking at the garbage that we're going to be shooting at today. Alright, so I figure we'll use like 50 grains of this stuff. That ought to be a pretty fair amount just for range running. Go ahead and set my little measurer here to 50 grains. And now what we do, we just kind of pour the homemade black powder into our little measuring device. Just like that. You can pour it from the flask. I wouldn't recommend it, but it is possible. It's been done plenty of times. Okay, alright, so I'm pretty sure that there's nothing inside the barrel of this. There wasn't whenever I stored it away, but that was several months ago. Pour that in there, and now I have these patches that are lubricated with Dawn dish soap, and that is a fantastic black powder lubricant that really lets you shoot a lot of rounds before you start like really significantly noticing it's getting difficult to load the gun. That's one of the issues with black powder muzzleloaders. Once you get beyond a certain round count, it can be a little difficult to load your firearm. Alright, I've also got these 490 round ball. So, set this here, and since this is a nice fresh muzzleloader, we shouldn't have to use a ball start or anything. It should just push right down. Perfect. Fantastic. I can't imagine doing this in the heat of battle. Alright, so now that we got that done, since I had said that this right here has a bit of oil in it, we want to just go ahead and give it the best possible chance to go off. So now I'm going to pull the nipple, and this is something that I do all the time. A lot of people panic over this for some reason. But what I do is I pull the nipple and I sprinkle just a few granules of black powder into the actual powder drum itself. If you don't know how this thing actually works, there's like a huge hole on the side of the barrel that the powder drum, this thing right here, that there screws into the barrel. It is subjected to as much pressure as everything else, so sticking a few grains of powder in there just to ensure its detonation is not going to hurt anything. And whenever I say a few grains, I mean like just a few little tiny grains in there to give it a little bit of a better chance at going off if there's maybe some oil or something built in it. Definitely don't fill up the powder drum with gunpowder. That would probably be a bad idea. After that first firing, you don't have to do this. This right here is just to ensure that first firing is a reliable detonation. Our nipple itself is clear of any debris, so we shouldn't have any issues with that. I'm going to go ahead and use a commercial cap to set off this first round versus one of my homemade ones, just to kind of ensure that we get reliable detonation. Okay, I hate having to clean these things. Okay, so I don't really know where to put the camera. I'm just kind of winging it with this one. You guys look fine right there. I don't have a target out here. There's really just like a million different targets there. Here, if I take the camera and I set you guys like right, I don't know, where would be the best spot? What do you guys think? You think right here would be a pretty gosh darn good spot? I think there's a pretty gosh darn good spot. You guys can see the rifle, you guys can see the range. I'm just gonna, I see a pumpkin right there. Let's set this off, see it goes bang. Oh, yep, she went bang. Kind of sounded like a pellet gun though. That right there definitely did not burn all of the powder. This right here is why I do this on particularly wet days. You see how our patch is smoking and burning right there? Well, out here in the mud and whatnot, we shouldn't have any issues. But definitely had some oil or something left over. Let me go ahead and load that again, and we'll send another round downrange and see what we get. Now this stuff here is granulated to about the size of 3F. So we shouldn't have any issues with like a slow burn or a slow detonation or anything like that. I think that we're gonna be okay. After that first fire, that should have gotten most of the funk out of the system of this thing. I went ahead and I bumped the charge up to 70 grains. This way we can just be positive that we have enough power going downrange. Alright, once again, we'll go ahead and do another commercial cap here, just to be positive that we cleaned out whatever was in this thing. Alright, second verse, same as the first, just like before. There we go, that was a much better ignition. Okay, cool. So now we're going to go ahead and load it up and use a one of my homemade percussion caps and see how well these ones work. Like I said, I've seen plenty of videos of other people doing exactly what I'm doing here, and they seem... If I were to use this corned powder for anything significant, I'd probably load it with 120 grain charge, just to be positive that we get plenty of power going downrange. Now, if you are in a dry area and you're concerned about starting fires with black powder, you can shoot these without patches. Me putting the patch here just helps lubricate it, but it's not an absolute essential for what we're doing here. Alright, I got the muzzleloader all loaded up. Let's load on one of my patented homemade percussion caps that have been made out of beer cans. I tell you what, they're definitely a lot more rigid than the commercial made ones. Alright, cram that bad boy on there. Okay, well, I'm just gonna take aim, pull the trigger. Let's see what happens here. Oh, it did not go bang. We might have better luck with like commercial grade powder, but no, that one did not go bang. So I make these out of beer caps, and I stuck in some of those little percussion pieces that you use for like a cap gun, just to see how well that they decide to go off. Alright, let's see if this one decides to detonate. There we go, that one fired. Hell yeah, that's awesome. So it does look like I had a couple of these little caps, like the what do you call it? What I'm using for the compound is the like cap gun pieces, and it looks like some of them came out. So maybe that one that I tried firing there was one that had popped out, because I just kind of have these held in with tension. Seems to work for most of them, but I did have some of that pop out. I'll get better at making these. Here's my first batch of these things. All right, let me go ahead and reload this thing and see if I can't make that happen again. All right, we're all loaded up once again. We got our homemade beer can percussion cap on this thing. I'm gonna aim at, oh, I see an old, looks like propane tank out there. Been shot to hell. Let's see if we can hit it. Well, we hit it. Hell yeah. Okay, well, so far we are 2 out of 3 percussion caps fired. And honestly, the way that these caps look, just because they're of a such stronger material than the commercial caps, since I'm making these out of beer can, if I wanted to, I could bring that home and repack it and not have to worry about punching another one out. As a matter of fact, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll see how many shots I can get from one of these. I'll go ahead and I'll set that right there. You know what? Let's go ahead and just keep it on. I wonder how many of these I can fire and how good the success rate's going to be. So far we only had one misfire, but again, I'm not sure if that was one of the ones that had the little cap things fall out. So the way that I actually make these, I've made videos on me making them before, but I guess I'll go ahead and tell you guys about it. The way that I actually make these is I have an actual die that I use for punching out these percussion caps from beer cans, soda cans, whatever it is that you got laying around, really. And then I have, you guys know those cap guns that have like the paper strips of the caps? I take that and I take a hole puncher and I punch those out, and I pack 3 of those per cap that I punched out with my die. And that is my way of making these percussion caps. I don't know why I used that. I really didn't need the ball starter, but I used it. Let's go ahead and shove this down. I'm not sure if I've said it, but I've bumped the charge up to 70 grains just so we have, you know, a substantial amount of grainage going on here. All right, we're loaded up with another round to go here. Looks like this particular beer cap, percussion cap that I have, I actually loaded, or I punched this one backwards, so I can actually see like it almost looks like a tan with the green writing from the beer can itself. I won't lie, that's pretty cool. All right, I'm just gonna go for that that same thing I shot at before, that propane tank out there. Oh, she did not fire. So as expected, we don't get 100% reliability with these things, and that's fine. This right here is still good enough for the homemade stuff. I'm sure if I packed more of the cap gun stuff into these, then I'd get better results. That one also didn't fire. Okay, you, why are you not firing? It's entirely possible that the paper from these clogged up my thing. I don't have like a pick or something to clean it out. Let me see what I can figure out here. Let's try using a commercial one to see if we can't unclog our little nipple. I'll have to make sure that I carry around some kind of pick or something that I can use to clean out the nipple. Alright, aiming for the same thing I was aiming at before. There we go. That one fired. Alright, so yeah. I'm just willing to bet that there was some paper or something from the percussion cap stuff that got in there. That's not something that you have to deal with the commercial stuff, because there's no paper that you pack into the cap. So it does have its ups, it does have its downs. The biggest downside with like the commercial grade caps is it's like, I don't know, 15 cents per cap nowadays. Versus the homemade ones, which I got 12,000 caps for $6. So Yeah. They might be a little bit less reliable, and you might have to do a little bit more cleaning and nitpicking with them, but they still seem to be going bang. How long is this video going? We got some time. I'm going to go ahead and load these up now that that commercial percussion cap probably cleared this thing out. I'm going to load it up and do another homemade one. So I make my homemade gunpowder using coconut fiber. If you can manage to find that, make it into charcoal, turn it into gunpowder. It's very clean burning. It's not the most powerful stuff, but it's very clean burning. And it's a mix of 75, 15, 10. So it's just your standard mix. And then combine that with these patches that I'm using. It has Dawn dish soap on it, which basically swabs the barrel every time I load a round in. And I can sit out here shooting this thing for a good long while before I end up having to clean it. I mean, gotta figure this is what, shot 6, give or take? 5? I'm not sure, I wasn't counting. And still, I don't even need the bloody ball starter in order to load this. I won't lie, it is pretty awesome. I'm having a good time. I'm just gonna set that right there. Still pointing, keeping that in the gun with what I'm doing here. Alright, so as far as a first batch, first trial goes, I think that these are working out pretty well. I actually have 2 different kinds of percussion caps here. I did not bring that up earlier. One kind I used a full-sized hole punch to get the things out, so it has a lot more paper in those. Then the other one that I used, the other hole punch size I used was a 1/4-inch hole punch versus like the big, I'm not entirely sure what size the normal standard hole punch is for paper. But so one of these, so some of these have like way more paper in them than the others. I'm willing to bet those are probably the ones that are a little less reliable, just because there's so much more in the way of that setting off the powder. Speaking of setting off the powder, another homemade percussion cap here. And she fired, and we hit our target. That's awesome, dude. I am glad that the homemade percussion caps are working well enough. Granted, we only get, I don't know. I'd have to like really run some of these through, see how much we get in terms of reliability. I'd say after every 2 or 3 caps, you would want to clean out your thing, because I'm already seeing like burnt paper inside of this nipple. And I don't have a way to clean it out, so after every 2 or 3 caps, I'll just use a commercial one for today. Next time I come out, I'll bring myself a little pick or something. Alright, I got her loaded up. I am putting on another homemade beer can percussion cap on this bad boy. Let's go ahead and take aim at the same exact thing I've been shooting at, because it's like the only legitimate target that I see out here. And we'll see what happens. Well, she fired. Kind of a little bit of a hang fire on that one, but she fired. Okay, well, I think that this right here is, yeah, see, look at the paper building up on that percussion nipple. Don't know how well that's coming up on camera, but I'm willing to bet that right there is what stopped us that one time. I think that this right here is a safe enough bet to say that my homemade percussion caps are working well enough for homemade percussion caps, considering how much cheaper they are than the alternative. This is probably something that I will use on a pretty gosh darn regular basis, because they're cheap and easy to use. Alright, well, we saw the results. I'm quite pleased with it. Homemade gunpowder, it's just corn, but homemade gunpowder. If I were to load that up, you know what? Let's load it with like a real charge and send one of those rounds downrange. I think that would be cool. I'm gonna load it up with, well, corn powder with the power we're getting. Let's do like 100 grains of powder, and let's see where that gets us here. All right, well, now we have us a 100 grain charge behind this thing, which is a real charge of powder. It is corned powder, so it's probably more like a 75, 80 grain charge in comparison to if we were using like commercial grade powder. I got my percussion cap made from a beer can on this thing. This entire setup right here is homemade everything. Homemade powder, homemade percussion cap, and although I do have commercially made round ball out here, I also have some homemade ones made from wheel weight lead. So that's what I'm currently using here. All of this that I'm about to fire is completely homemade. So let's go ahead and see see how well this does. If this right here was a bad situation, and this right here was what I had to get whatever it is that I needed, let's see how well she goes boom. Oh yeah. All right, that was a good amount of power going down range. That was a fairly decent shot. She went bang pretty well. Homemade percussion cap worked like a charm. Won't lie, I'm quite pleased with how well these are working. All right, well, I think that's it for me for this particular episode. Thanks for watching, folks. I appreciate your time. Like, subscribe, share. Description below has a link to all sorts of stuff. Go check it out. You guys go off, have yourself a fantastic day. I'll see you guys on the next episode. Been a little while since I've done this. Bonnie and Clyde be damned. The poor man's Gary. It's a shame that bolt action shotguns aren't more mainstream.